Hello again. We're going to find myself today in my quarantine. I just arrived to the Maldives. And so because of this, we have a very limited amount of space we're going to work with. So I apologize for that. There's also a tree on my roof that is going back and forth. So we'll see how that does with the sound. But for today's movement experiential, we don't have that much we really need for space. We're going to work with finding our tail. Right? So most of us don't have a tail, but we have a tailbone. And playing around with becoming aware of if we had a tail is great for helping us to figure out how we move through space in various different ways. So we're going to play with this a bit. You'll hopefully start to feel how the differences are by creating a bit of imagination and bringing that into our body. So take a moment, find a space, wait for the intro, and then we'll come back here and we'll play around for a bit. See you soon. So for finding your tail, the first thing we're going to need to do is find out where your sacrum is. More or less where your hips come together, there's going to be a spot under the spine comes down, and then when it comes down, there's going to be a little bit of a space between the top of the butt cheeks where the coccyx will come under. And just in that general area, I want you to imagine a tail. So you can picture any type of tail that you want. It might be a bird's tail, might be a big stegosaurus tail, might be a donkey's tail. I remember when I was first starting to do this, I kept picking Eeyore's tail from Winnie the Pooh, which was a really easy one because it would come off very easily. So it was easy for me to remember. It could be any type of tail, a dog's tail, whatever it is that you're thinking of in your mind. And what I want you to do is just feel like you have a tail. Right? And then what's that like to just have the weight of the tail coming back behind you? Now, already for some of us, this is going to be a drastic change of just feeling that weight behind you, supporting you up. Some of you might start to feel like you're coming back. If so, you can have your hands on the wall. We're going to come a little later to another exercise with that. Whatever works for you, just feeling that. For me, what I'm noticing as I bring that awareness of my tail is that my feet actually are on the ground a little more. But I've actually lost some of my awareness of my space. So I'm going to come back in a bit to bring that in. I share these all as possibilities that you may be aware of at this point. You don't have to have them. You may have other stuff. And then let that go, and you can just walk around a little bit, move around in your space. I don't have a lot of space, so you're going to lose my head right there. But I'm going to walk around in a little bit of space I have. You might have more space. And just walk around what it's like without that tail, right? Feeling how that feels. And then pause for a moment. Bring the tail back in. And then walk again. Oof. Yeah. For me, what I'm noticing is how much slower I start to go with that tail. And I'm, again, more aware of the space behind me. I almost feel like I could hear what's going on back behind me much more easier. Right? And then let that go. Again, you can shake it out a bit. Now, I'm going to recommend throughout the day we keep the same tail, but if that tail isn't working for you, feel free to try another one on. And when you practice this later on in the week, or however many times you do it, you're welcome to bring more tails in, whatever works for you. I think it's usually helpful to stick with one to start with so you can build that on, but everyone is at a different place, so just playing with what it is. And then you're always welcome to leave comments or send me direct messages and see what's going on and if I can help more with that. We're going to come now to the wall. Just get your hands be gently on the wall. Now we're not going to push into the wall. It's almost as if the wall can just barely hold us up. Right, so we're just barely on the wall. Right? Our feet are about hip width apart. And then again, we're going to just find that tail. Right? Whatever tail it is you're working with, find the tail. Sense it there. And just start to see, like, what would it be like for that tail to go a little to the left and a little to the right. So we're going to start to just find a little more hip movement. If the knees are really tight, you can bend them a little bit to provide some more space. Letting that tail just go left and right. Letting the tail be the guide. And same, it can go up and down. can do some circling around from the tail. Notice how sometimes the pelvis wants to lead, and we're actually having this thought of the tail leading the movement. And then you can let it move however it wants to move. The tail might have a mind of its own. If you ever watch dogs and monkeys, the tail is just kind of doing its thing. So what would it be like if your tail led the movement? So instead of us saying go in circles, go up and down, just let the tail move as it wants to move. Just finding some freedom in that lower back. Maybe freedom in the hips as well. Alright, and then let that go. You can shake it out. And again, keeping the tail, and just begin to walk. Right? Noticing, how's that walking feeling? Does it feel the same as before or different? I notice with me that just by incorporating that tail and getting a little bit of movement, my whole legs are moving easier. It's freer to walk. It's more gentle. And I feel like space and tightness that I normally hold in my hips has already started to free up just by implementing a bit of a tail into my mind and by having some movement in there that's initiating not from my normal way of moving but from an alternate way by using this tail and training my body to think in a slightly different way. That's all for today. It's very, very simple. Again, as always, these simple exercises are a lot. So I hope that you practice it, stay with it, work with it, see how it goes. Again, as always, you can send messages, comments, likes. All this stuff is really helpful. I always enjoy hearing from you and then being in conversation for tips that may make you have a little more ease and comfort in your life. So I'll see you next time. I'll have some more fun stuff, hopefully coming up in my quarantine quarters. We're going to see what we can do. I have a lot of great ideas. I just don't have the space. We'll see what it is. Until then, you're always welcome to subscribe, and I'll see you when I see you. Peace.